Thank you, gentlemen. Now I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Kustoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the witnesses for appearing today. Ms. Gordon, could I go back to you and follow up maybe a little bit on what Mr. Estes asked you? In your written testimony, and this is about compliance, you talked about how businesses are establishing systems right now to try to comply with Pillar 2's extensive reporting requirements. And in your testimony, you noted that one NFTC member has already spent a lot of money, I think you said 8 figures, in 15,000 hours preparing for those Pillar 2 requirements. Can you talk more about the compliance burdens that Pillar 2 will impose on U.S. businesses? What type of information are they going to have to submit, and what are some of the more unique challenges?
Congressman, thank you for your question. So our members have started to update their systems and prepare for compliance with Pillar 2. One member has noted they hired another 6 to 8 people. They have spent 15,000 hours preparing for this and over $10 million. Other members have noted that the $10 million is probably just the startup costs to implement these systems. So this is very labor intense. And that is really before we even have all of the rules and before we can see if all the countries enact the exact same rules or if there are slight differences. Every time there's a difference, that is more compliance costs, that is more time, and additional numbers that the country is going to need to, or the company is going to need to report to a different country.
And you may have just talked about this. What about the manpower? What about the labor that goes into that?
Yeah, there is a lot of labor. A lot of these numbers that the Pillar 2 tax return, the global information return, is requesting are not numbers that my members currently compute. So it's trying to get that information and compute these new numbers because they're on the return, not because they're used to assess the audit risk or because they're actually needed to compute either the IIR or the UTPR.
Thank you very much. First, if I can, with you, you wrote a column in Tax Notes a couple of months ago in May. You talked about the risks associated with China participating in Pillar 2. Can you expound on that a little bit more? And could China cheat as it relates to their requirements?
Yeah. And thank you for that question. It's interesting that China in public has been mostly silent on its intentions. So Pillar 2 is not mandatory for any country to adopt. It's voluntary. And for complex reasons, it's not clear, although the UTPR is supposed to be this mechanism by which other countries are kind of forced into the system or else it will impose costs. Many large Chinese companies are actually not Chinese headquartered. They're Cayman headquartered. And so it's not clear really how effective the mechanisms that were designed for Pillar 2 would be in impacting Chinese companies. On Pillar 1, they've also been pretty silent. But I don't know what mechanisms there are for ensuring compliance in China that they haven't been so effective in other areas. And so I thought it was interesting that there was no answer to the question about whether Secretary Yellen got a commitment from China on implementation of this deal.
So I'm going to ask this very politely. Are there challenges, or would there be challenges to monitoring China's compliance?
So we don't know anything right now about it. It's the OECD that would be designing a mechanism to ensure countries' compliance with this deal, and there's simply no, not even detailed. There's no information at all about how that would be, and so whether that could be effective, I think, is unknown at this point.
Fair to say that China could use strategies to try to circumvent the Pillar 2 rules?
There's lots of mechanisms countries could use, but
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.